Hello and welcome back to the DFS Premier League show brought to you by VIP-bet.com. I am your host Kevin DeVries. That over there is my good friend Rob, aka Smokey Louie over there from the Twitters and the Razzball.com. How you doing, Rob?
Good, Kevin. How's it going with you? You know, it's the eve of is it Turkey Eve? That would classify as Turkey Eve, right?
Sure.
Turkey Eve. Turkey Eve works. We'll use Turkey Eve. But for everybody in the States, it's Turkey Eve. When we're recording this, if you're watching this, you're probably watching a parade and enjoying the floats and the inflatable love animals that are going around, floating around New York City. So happy holidays to everyone that is watching this. If you don't celebrate the holiday, then happy Thursday. I don't know.
Great. What a great point. But yeah, Macy's, doing their thing. I actually had an opportunity to march in the Macy's Day Parade in high school and didn't go. It was too cold.
I wouldn't go either.
Me either. Although I feel like that's the kind of thing that you do once. Like when I was living in New York for New Year's Eve, everyone was like, "Don't do Times Square," and my advice would be, do it once. Twice, way too many times. Go once. Don't drink anything before you go, because if you leave to go to the bathroom, they don't let you back in. But Macy's Day Parade, maybe once. Definitely not any more times than that. But Rob kept alluding to it. It is Thanksgiving, probably the day that this is posted, not the day we're recording it. But so yeah, happy Thanksgiving to you and yours for sure. We forgot to bring anything to your Thanksgiving Day party, but what we will bring you is plenty of Premier League fantasy advice to help you with your DFS teams. I did pretty well last week. Got all my teams to cash, which is pretty fortunate, although I had one team that was a goer. It was looking really good, but then unfortunately Harry Kane, well, it wasn't just Harry Kane, there were 5 goals in the Tottenham-West Ham match that really ruined a lot of my stuff, and Lloris was my keeper, so it wasn't the best at the end of the day, but I had a pretty good week last week myself. How have you been feeling about DFS since we've been doing this a lot more lately?
It's interesting. I've always generally have a rooting interest in fantasy Premier League games, but and I've always played casually before we started to divulge more into the research levels of it and give people the knowledge that they use to maybe win them money. But it gives an extra added interest level for me on the games that are on the slate for the cash slates. Because you root for in particular guys instead of different fantasy guys, so it gives you new reasons to root if you need any other reasons to root, because it's sports. We all root for sports. If you're playing DFS, obviously you like sports. I mean, everything on there is sports except for I know you could bet on video games now.
Wait, really? Oh, yeah, snap! This is a weird side story, so buckle up. But I was actually at the Football Factory in New York, which is right by the Empire State Building, for a couple of Champions League matches, and then had a friend meet up with me, so just ended up kind of staying for a while, and hadn't noticed that throughout the day, more and more people in like clothes that I didn't recognize at all were there, and then all of a sudden I looked up at a TV, and it was like League of Legends, and I was like, what? I was like at a bar that's basically a sports bar, and they were showing video game stuff. I was like,
nice.
Oh snap! What? Apparently we're getting there now, which is pretty impressive.
It's there. We're gonna have to get really cool sign-on Xbox One names, and that'll be our sign-ons. Welcome, my name is Cypher X569.
I'm Blaze it 420. No, but yeah,
That's taken.
Oh, for sure. But it is pretty crazy. I'm sure you've seen like some football clubs are actually buying teams that do eSports and stuff like that, like ESPN.
Sponsorships.
ESPN and all those are like starting to have eSports coverage and stuff. So I guess it is coming up on the map. So maybe we need to start versing ourselves in that. But for now, we are just talking about the Premier League and very happy to do so. This slate's a little weird, if I'm going to be honest. Not a whole lot of super great things here. I think there are only really 3 teams who want to own, but we'll get to that here in a little bit. At the end, we usually talk about how many points we think the week will have, the winning team. Last week, we both thought it was going to be the high 170s, ended up being 150s. I think this is going to be a low week. I'm thinking like maybe 120s even. Not a lot of these are great.
I would say 140. I would say 140.
Yeah. It's possible. I'm just being like, overly cautious. But looking at this, I don't think there is literally a matchup that you can say this is going to be a clean sheet.
Literally.
Yeah, it's
literally.
It's a tough one for sure. Last week, what we did is we rotated, going back and forth on separate matches. So one of us got 4, the other one got 3. This week, we're just going to cover all 5 because all 5 is not that many matches.
Yeah. We're just going to spit random knowledge at you, and if we cover the same guys, cool. That means we double like them, and you should double pick them, which isn't allowed. Don't do it.
Don't try.
Won't let you.
Yeah, but so we may as well start. Let me switch over to the screen where you can see everything. We're going to start off over here with Hull and West Brom. We can start, if you'd like, with you, Rob. Who are the people that you're highlighting on in this one?
Absolutely. You know, it's funny. I know you alluded that there's only 2 or 3 teams that you actually like in this slate. And you know what? This is one of the games that I absolutely love. I think this is a game that people are going to look at and capitalize on because there's a lot of modest values there for you. Look at the love for Matty Phillips in the last 2 games where he's done 22 and 29 points, priced at 6,200. He's going to be rostered a ton this week. Salomon Rondon, look what he's done in the last 2 or 3 weeks, 7,500. He's going to be rostered a ton. And then you get to guys like Ben Foster. He's probably going to be looked at a lot because West Brom just had a clean sheet, and Hull is not the offensive juggernaut that they seem to be, especially since their name is a tiger. You think they'd be ferocious and attacking and rah, and they're just not.
And instead, they're dead last in the Premier League in attack.
Yeah, they're just awful. So Ben Foster at 5K is definitely someone to look at. I wouldn't trust him completely because you look at his last 3 game outputs, it's 14-7 and then a -2. Yeah, so that's awesome. Interesting fact, Hull has only scored 2 goals once this year since August. So that's not good either. So from a standpoint of letting in goals, Ben Foster might be your guy this week at $5,000. The one guy I'm really liking this, I don't really hate too many people in this game besides the Hull defenders, because if you're trusting a Hull defender this week, you're obviously punting, or Michael Dawson's like friend club or whatever. You want to be friends on Napster or Friendster or on Grindr. I don't know. Man. Any one of those. But the guy I like in this game, and he got a little bit of a run last week, that's James McLean at 6,100. I think for me, he's the sneaky anti-Matt Phillips play. I think Matt Phillips is probably going to get the 25% ownership rate this week, and I think James McLean will probably be in the 6 to 8 range, and I think they'll probably give you similar outputs. Granted, if Matt Phillips doesn't go off the register again and give you 2 goals and an assist like he's been doing in the last couple of games. But my nod for this week is James McLean from West Brom, 6,100 through the midfield. He's an easily paired up guy with a high price guy from Liverpool or a City.
Yep, fair enough. For me, well, you mentioned so many people. So you took all my West Broms. I do like Phillips. You didn't really dive too deep on Rondon. We do both love Matty Phillips and Nasser Chadli for good reason, because they've been so good of late. But Rondon was somebody that was always better than the players that surrounded him at West Brom. Still ended up with 10 goals last season despite very little service. They were 3rd worst in chances created last season. No longer the case with Phillips and Chadli there. He is going to get more opportunities to score, and his shot accuracy and everything have always been higher than average. He's actually scoring more often than he should based on the chances he's getting, and now he's getting more of those chances. So there should be a proportionate rise in his goal tally. I think Phillips is a sneaky 10 to 12 assist guy this year, and I really wouldn't be surprised if Rondon fell in that same 10 to kind of 15 range for goals, despite the fact that they still aren't creating loads of chances. This is still a Tony Pulis team. They don't love bombing forward, but for this particular match, I love it. I love these chances that he's getting. I think Matty Phillips' form helps Rondon's form. Both of them had a goal and assist at the weekend. And now they're going up against Hull, who, as we mentioned, have the league's worst defense and the league's worst attack. So it's a pretty good one for West Brom. I would caution those buying in on the West Brom defenders. They screw you a whole lot. Just because they didn't last week doesn't mean they won't this week. But on paper, I do agree that Hull obviously are not a team that are imposing towards too many people. But if I was going to throw out a Hull guy that isn't Snodgrass, because obviously, let me highlight him over here. It'd be my boy Ryan Mason. He's on 4,500. He's been sneaky good of late, despite the dross that surrounds him. He's actually averaging 10.4 points per game over his last 5. On the season, actually. And just because I think West Brom have a decent chance at a clean sheet, it's not a good chance at a clean sheet. They just have a decent one. And if Hull score, there's a good chance that Mason is going to be thereabouts. And if you look at his games, they are fairly well spread out statistically. He has some shots on target. He has some chances created. He has some crosses sent in. He's just a guy that, I bet a lot of people are dismissing. And if you get in a midfielder that is as cheap as 4,500, you can do a lot of other things. I'm not saying go out and target Mason, or if you're a person that puts in multi-entries, I'm not saying put him in every one of your teams. But if you're looking for a kind of a low-priced midfielder flyer that's going against the grain of the way many experts are kind of predicting the way this match will go, I think Mason's an interesting contrarian play. What do you think,
I
Rob?
agree. I mean, Foster, Mason is Can you hear me?
Yep.
Can you see me?
Yep. Having some slight
Sorry,
technical issues.
I had a little internet connection there problem, so I apologize. I like the shout for Mason. If something's going to happen, I believe it goes through Snodgrass. Unfortunately, if you're going to invest in someone, it'd probably be Snodgrass. I probably wouldn't dip as low as Mason, only because I think he's too goal dependent to be anything viable.
Yeah, no, it's an excellent point that you make there. Was there anybody that you pointed out you disliked? Other than just like everyone else? Yeah. Me too. Doubles up on that. All right, now we will shift to Leicester versus Middlesbrough. This may surprise you, Rob, because I've been pretty anti him in recent times, but I do like Christian Fuchs this week. I'm not usually a high-priced defender kind of guy, although it did help me out a little bit last week. But there are so few good matchups on offer. I think this may be the week to maybe not punt, although a case could be made for if they're not good, maybe then you just super punt and you just take your 3,300 kind of guys. But I do like Fuchs this week. For as poor as Leicester have been away, they've been good at home. They actually have the second best defensive home record this season, with only 4 goals allowed at home, I believe, 4 or 5.
4,
4,
yeah. Oh yeah, Tottenham are on 3. Yeah. But anyway, so yeah, Leicester have been symbolic away from home. 16 allowed goals away from home, only 4 at home. This is obviously at home, otherwise I wouldn't be talking about him. He also is the defender with the 3rd most corners taken. He takes some set pieces. You like that. So Fuchs, I think, is an interesting one, especially in a matchup against Boro, who I think are the 3rd worst attack in the Premier League right now. Nope, 2nd worst, 19th.
Second.
So, that's super not great. 2nd best home defense against the 19th ranked attack. You take that all day. For the player I dislike, it's Riyad Mahrez. He's 8,200, and he has been the main recipient of all that regression talk that everybody kept bringing up last season. Just has not been able to put it together this year. Still not top 50 in key passes in the league, a category that he was very, very good in last season. Here's a question to put you on the spot. How many times do you think Riyad Mahrez has completed a pass to Jamie Vardy in the Premier League this season?
I was going to get into. You mentioned both guys, Mahrez and Vardy, and those are the 2 guys that I keep pointed on for this matchup. Vardy, to me, it's funny. I wrote my note.
You jumped over my question, man. How many times do you think Mahrez has passed to Vardy?
Oh, it's 0 times.
It's once. It's once.
Once. Yeah. It's funny. I read that. You broke up and I missed the question, so I apologize. But yeah. Yeah, I was like, all I heard was Vardy, and I actually read that stat. It's only 1 completed pass to Jamie Vardy. But yeah, so I mean, just to jump into my love beats for these, I'll do it real quick. I'm going to disagree with you on Mahrez this week, only because I'm fading everyone in the Chelsea Spurs game. I think there's going to be a lot of ownership love there, and this is one of those games that could be, what we were expecting last week from Liverpool, and they ended up drawing 0-0. It's one of those games where I think it either can be 0-0, 1-1, and basically have no one involved. So I think that's why I'm fading. We're going to get into that in a little bit, the Chelsea-Tottenham fixture. But that's why I'm leaning toward Mahrez. I think he's going to be a good differential play. I don't think people are going to look at him based on his dollar value. Is 8,200. And his output, believe it or not, isn't awful compared to other players at his price point. His last 4 games, 17, 20, 14, and 14. That's all four. That's last 4 comps all play. So there's a World Cup qualifier in there as well. But at 8,200, you're getting basically a Liverpool midfielder basically if they don't score. That's basically the output you're getting from Mahrez, even though he hasn't given you the goals, the assists, the passes that you were accustomed to. And last year at this point he was probably averaging 22 to 24 points a game in the Premier League, but he's not that far off. He's averaging 16 now, so he's not that far off. I just think he's missing the goals that have given him the ability to shine out like people are looking for, like he did last year. And my hate. You mentioned him, Jamie Vardy. If he even gets a start in this game, that'd be
he should. It does look like Slimani will be out.
Yeah, absolutely. But at 6,900, I don't know what happened to Jamie Vardy. I don't know what happened with the whole Leicester dimension. Dimensions.
It all regressed. It always had to regress.
Oh, absolutely does. Absolutely. I mean, any team that has more points in 5 Champions League games, 13, than 12 Premier League games, 12.
Yeah.
There's something going on there. I know that they're probably selling out and they're probably playing well and better than their competition in the Champions League, but show me something in Premier League games. That's what we're playing here. We want to play cash games with the Mahrezes, the Vardys. It's actually good that they're doing bad, because I think that there's going to be a hot streak for Mahrez and for Vardy. So if they continue on these downslopes, I think there's going to be a time when people who have continually invested in them are going to strike gold when they actually do something well.
Yeah. I can see where you're coming from. I just think you're dead wrong. Those are our picks for Leicester and Middlesbrough there. No Middlesbrough players really worth mentioning. If Friend was fit, maybe. They do actually have the 3rd best defense over the last 5 matches, which is interesting. But I'm not really sure that makes any of them ownable. It just makes the Leicester people less attractive to me.
Yeah.
We can now move on to Liverpool versus Sunderland, and Rob, you got the lead on this one.
Yeah, I mean, Liverpool. It's all starts with the midfield love. Look who are you gonna roster out of the 3? It's gonna be Coutinho, Firmino, or Mane. Somebody is gonna roster almost one of those guys, almost every one of their rosters. Yeah. So my love for this week is probably the cheapest out of the 3. I'd go Sadio Mane, 8,700, 7, 8, 28, and 9 in his last 4. This to me just feels like a Sadio Mane catches Patrick Van Aanholt, attacking too much, breaks down the field, gets a goal. I think that Mane's speed is going to be the differential in this game compared to Coutinho's, outside the box shot ability and Firmino's skill inside the final 18. Mane is the guy I'm looking at. I could be wrong because it's basically a coin flip, or a 3-headed coin flip. I don't know if there's, if it lands on its edge, I guess that'd be Sadio Mane. So that's my pick for love for this game. The person I don't love in this game is we talked about him on our FPL Roundtable show. That's Victor Anichebe, 5,200. I know he's going to have a lot of ownership based on his last 2 game results, 3 goals, and his price tag at 5,200. But I mean, Liverpool has got to start shutting down the worst offensive teams like a Sunderland. They're not a great attacking team. Sunderland has 12 goals in the season. They only have 3 total goal scorers. Defoe has 7, Anichebe has 3, and Van Aanholt has 2. That's the entire scoring for Sunderland. So, I mean, if Liverpool can key on those 3 guys and, shut down Anichebe, I think Anichebe's ownership is probably going to be the telltale sign this week. I think people are probably going to buy in a ton on him. He'll probably be one of the top owned forwards this week, probably next to Diego Costa, because I think probably the name will get people across. But I'm not buying it at all against a Liverpool defense that is probably going to be a little bit better and more stout this week.
Yeah, I think excellent points there from you. I agree with your Liverpool midfield thing. I think Coutinho is as close to a must-own as you're ever really going to get in DFS. And this is definitely a stack week for Liverpool. I will have probably no teams with less than 2 Liverpool players, and I would not be surprised if I have a few with 3+. I'm not sure if it's all going to be the midfielders. It'll be interesting to see where you go there. I do think you have a point about Sunderland's attack, but they've actually only failed to score twice in the last 5. Defoe was on form. Anichebe's on form. So I wouldn't be surprised if they score past Liverpool. I think they're only 7th in defense at the moment. I mean, 7th isn't awful just compared to how good Liverpool's attack is. It stands out. And that kind of leads me to my dislike, which may come as a surprise to you because I like him in other formats. But Luis Karius is not worth 5,900. I actually, like, when I was making my pre-notes, just like thinking about people earlier in the day, I was like, Karius, like. Saw his price and was like, nope. There are positive stats for him. He has 5 wins out of 7. Yeah. He has the best win record since becoming their starter, other than Thibaut Courtois over at Chelsea. But I already mentioned the Defoe things, and he's just so expensive. Defoe has 6 goals. Sunderland have scored 6 goals in their last 5 matches. And for that price, the most expensive, I just don't like it. After that great stat you had early in the season, the top keeper has not been the top keeper points-wise in many of the weeks past here. So I just can't stick by Karius, even though I think Liverpool could do some stuff. And they could pick up the win, which is your 5 points. Like I said, I'm not big on clean sheets this week. Don't think there's a super high chance of that in this one either. And if you aren't super certain that you're getting a clean sheet from your keeper, I don't think he's worth anything more than 5.5, maybe even 5 even.
Yeah, you could just buy into Ben Foster and have him go against Hull for $5,000.
And then you can be happy for 80 minutes until he concedes.
Yeah, 82 minutes until it breaks your heart.
Exactly. Speaking of matches with questionable defenses here, Swansea versus Crystal Palace. It's going to be an adventure. I joked on our FPL show yesterday with Rob. This is what happens when the stoppable force meets the movable object. Not a whole lot that you can hang your hat on here, but the player that I like the most this week is Christian Benteke. He's at 7,200. He's the most expensive of the forwards in this match. Is he the most expensive overall? Nope, 3rd, behind Sigurdsson and Townsend. But I like Benteke this week. He's the 10th most expensive forward, which is not too much. I know the form hasn't been great, but we also talked about yesterday, Crystal Palace have 3 of the top 15 crosses of the ball in the Premier League. Benteke is the 2nd best in aerial duels in the Premier League. Those 2 things have to equal something, and soon, I would imagine. Swansea perennially awful at set pieces, awful against headed goals. It just has to come together this week. And if it doesn't, this is a daily format, so you don't have to worry about Benteke ever again. In other formats, it's a much bigger issue, deciding whether or not to hold on to him. But I think in 1 week for 7,200 for the matchup, considering the background stats that just have to neutralize it at some point. Like, they have to come together. I think this is a good week to bring Benteke in. And Swansea's defense on the whole isn't good. Not only are they susceptible to headed goals, they're also just bad in general. So I do think that this is a match that will tend to lean Crystal Palace's way. For another player that I kind of like, MacArthur, not going to go too far into him because unlike you, I'm not going to mention every single player and leave you with nothing to say. But for Crystal Palace's defense, Joel Ward, 4,500. The last clean sheet they kept in was in April of this year. Not so great. Swansea aren't amazing in attack, but have scored in 4 of their last 5. Gylfi Sigurdsson has rounded into form recently. You have to like that. This is not good for Crystal Palace, considering that over the last 5, they are dead last in defense. I know they lost Mandanda, but that is not entirely the issue. They have Martin Kelly playing left back. I'm not even sure he's really a defender at this point. He's certainly not a left back. They've missed out Dan for some games. This is just not a good situation for the Palace defense, so I'm just trying to avoid that pretty much on the whole, like the plague.
Yeah. I agree with your Crystal Palace defense avoid. But you still got to throw some love to Scotty Dan. I still always love Scotty Dan, but he's not the guy I'm pinpointing on this week. The guy I'm pinpointing on this week is Wilfred Zaha, 6,800, 4 assists in his last 4 games. Like Kevin mentioned, Crystal Palace lead the Premier League with 337. They have 36 more than the second place team. Swansea is just not good in the air against aerial crosses. Zaha's speed is going to be differential there. He's going up against Neil Taylor. Doesn't scare me. I'd rather own Solomon Rondon at 7,500 for 3-4. Rondon is in form. Benteke is not. Rondon is giving you the sound of scoring and ability on the ball that Benteke is without Benteke. Crystal Palace is not something for us attack-wise. If you want to, be the contrarian and play a high-priced Crystal Palace play, look for Andres Townsend to continue what he does, a fantasy asset in every format except the official game, because he doesn't get goals or assists, but he gives you ancillary stats that come across all over the board crosses, tackles one, players taking on. But yeah, so that Zaha's my like, Benteke my dislike. That's just it for me. Because I don't like anybody on Swansea. Like you said, Sigurdsson is in form, but I think he needs a spot kick to actually do something to accompany his name in the score sheet.
Yeah, fair enough. All right, well, we will A, apologize for any technical issues yet again, but B, get into, last but not least, a match that will probably destroy our friendship and fantasy partnership. It's your beloved Chelsea versus my...
No.
What? Yeah, maybe. Who knows? We'll see.
No.
No, that's fair.
For your friendship, because I'll say something rude and crass, like it's another weekend. Duh. I say something stupid like that every weekend.
I know. I never do. I'm not that guy, but you clearly are. But it's fine. We got past the 2-2 last season, so in theory we should be able to get past this. You already mentioned that you don't love most people in this. I do say that Harry Kane is worth a look. He's still cheap. He's still only on 8,200, I want to say. Yeah. And while it seems like a tough matchup on paper, he scored 4 goals in his last 5 matches against Chelsea, 17 goals in his last 16 derbies. This is a guy that does love a big game, despite the reputation that somehow still lingers around him. I still see people saying he always scores against crap teams. Just not the case anymore. So for me, Kane already has more goals at this point this season than he did last season, and he won the Golden Boot last season. So Kane is a player that is almost matchup proof to me, and especially as long as he's nowhere near that 10,000 mark, I just don't see how you can avoid him. I don't. Yeah. Even if you're a huge Chelsea guy and you've seen the stats, Chelsea haven't conceded a goal in 6 matches, which is incredible. I'm just saying, Kane kind of seems like the guy that would do that. I'm not saying to fill all of your rosters with him, but I think you need to at least have 1 or 2 with him in there for sure. And for dislike, kind of following what you were saying, pretty much anyone that's not a forward in this game, and I'll count Hazard there as well because he's a midfielder / forward. I'm avoiding everyone else. I don't like any of the actual true midfielders. Just stick with forwards. Maybe Costa. I do think both sides concede, so entirely possible Costa gets on the score sheet. Same with Hazard. Moses is always interesting now, I guess. But largely, I'm just sticking to forwards and leaving the rest to everyone else.
Yeah, I mentioned it before. I'm complete fade in this game. I don't love anybody's prices in this game. Hazard is the most expensive guy. Costa the 3rd most expensive guy. I'd rather invest in middle of the road guys. You can have 3 Liverpool defenders for basically the 3 highest priced players in this game. I'd lean that way every day because, like I said, this game is too hard to predict for me. I know Chelsea has a clean sheet, backup, 6 straight. But Spurs is still the 2nd best defense in the Premier League for a reason.
They're still literally the 1st best in the Premier League, just not over the last 5.
First best. There you go, first best. So I mean, they're good. They're good defensively for a reason because they play good defensive.
Yep.
So
Danny Rose though. I didn't follow up. That's why I think Moses is interesting. Because it will be maybe against Ben Davies if he passes a late fitness test, but it may actually be Jan Vertonghen, which obviously opens up the interior of the defense, which is why I do think Chelsea do score.
That would be an interesting play if that does happen. Victor Moses against a non-wide playing defender. Yeah. That could be rough with Victor Moses' speed and pace. But yeah, so good talent to Victor Moses in this game. He's a medium priced, but most guys in this game are a little bit overpriced because it's because of the names on the teams. They don't actually give you enough. Don't just avoid Spurs midfielders. Eriksson, Ali, they haven't done anything for you lately. Lamela is not coming back anytime soon for this game. So yeah, I'm fading this game. I'd rather have Liverpool. I'd rather have West Brom. I'd rather probably have Crystal Palace, a few Crystal Palace players. Yeah.
To be fair, this should be a fun week of matches.
Oh, absolutely.
Last week was awful. This week will be fun to watch. It's just not great matchup-wise. Yeah. But, you have your Swansea, Crystal Palace, Leicester, Middlesbrough, who are, kind of even. And then you have your matches, Chelsea, Tottenham as well. And then you'll have Liverpool, Sunderland, which should just be, lacking and fun for you if you own any Liverpool players. We already mentioned at the top of the show how many points we think people are going to end up with. On the whole, I think you want to go cheap goalkeepers, maybe 1 high-priced defender, 1 low-priced guy, and then just upcharge everybody else from the Liverpool match. If you're going team makeup-wise, have you made your teams yet? Is there anybody that you're specifically highlighting?
I made one team, but it was kind of just a mess around, knock around. Yeah. I know I have Mane in there. I have Rondon. I have I believe I have McLean in there only because I like the price of McLean at 6,100. Defensively, I think I have Ben Foster in goal as my first, but this is like my first initial lineup, so I probably was just messing around, and I was probably a little sudsy from the pub. I don't know, but you know.
Yeah, I have Phillips. Sorry, I have Phillips or Punchin in almost all of my utils right now.
Punchin is a great call in this game. He does have games where he completely dictates the game and then completely just disappears the next like 2
leads
or 3
the league
games.
in corner kicks. You know what corner kicks count as?
Half a point.
Crosses.
Yeah, half a point.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, Punchin's a great call for anybody looking for a contrarian play. There's no way he's going to be owned in anything more close to 10%.
Yeah, Zaha's price just keeps kind of drifting upwards, so thought it was an interesting week to maybe go that route.
With success brings success.
True. Zaha does have 4 assists in his last 5, so all credit to him. All right, well, that will do it for us. Rob, tell the folks where they can find you.
You can find me on Twitter. It's Smokey_Loogie, or you can find my writings and musings on Razball.com.
And I am your other host, Kevin DeVries, at KevRuff on Twitter. We have a show over on EPL Roundtable, which you can find at EPL Roundtable. It also goes up on All in Sports Talk, which is at All in Sports Talk. This, obviously, brought to you by the very fine folks over there at VIP-bet.com. Be sure to head over there, check out the website, go to the podcast, go to the video podcast, or it is on YouTube, although, forgive the views. Hopefully we can get that up sometime soon, maybe advertise that a bit more, but feel free to check us out there. We realize that YouTube is probably the easiest for you. You can do it on mobile, you can do all that fun stuff, so be sure to check all of our stuff out. He writes over there at razball.com. I do also write for theeaglesbeak.com. We're going to see if I get an article out, because I'm going to be moving around a bit for Thanksgiving, which we should bring up one more time. Happy Thanksgiving to all you American listeners out there. To the English listeners, have fun waiting on turkey until Christmas, because sorry about it, but we get it quite soon indeed.
Have fun at work.
Yeah, very much so. Have fun watching the Europa League. But thank you guys so much for tuning in, and I'm sure we'll be back next week with plenty more fantasy advice and hopefully bringing you more tips to help you cash.
We're looking forward to hearing from you. Get in touch with us. VIP Bet, your place to win.